The final hours of the year bleed away, painting the American sky in shades of bruised purple and inky black. Snow falls in silent, heavy sheets, muffling the distant sounds of celebration, wrapping the world in a deceptive blanket of peace. But in the quiet corners of this festive night, where loneliness clings like frost to a window pane, true peace is a forgotten dream. In these shadows, something ancient and malevolent stirs, awakened by the desperate wishes of a solitary heart. This is not a story of holiday cheer. This is a tale of a wish granted and a price paid in the currency of life itself, a grim reminder that on a night like New Year's Eve, when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, you must be careful what you wish for. It might just come looking for you. Our story unfolds in a quiet, snow-dusted suburb of Chicago on the last night of the year. Inside a small, cozy bungalow, a woman named Clara sat alone. The soft glow of her television cast flickering shadows across the room, illuminating half-empty glasses and decorations that seemed to mock her solitude. Outside, the world was a cacophony of joy, but inside, silence reigned. Clara was beautiful, with eyes the color of a winter sky and a smile that had grown weary from disuse. She had spent too many New Year's Eves this way, watching the world pair off while she remained a spectator. As the clock crept closer to midnight, a familiar ache settled in her chest, a profound loneliness that felt as cold and deep as the snow piling up outside her door. In a moment of quiet desperation, with a tear tracing a path down her cheek, she closed her eyes and whispered a wish into the silent air. It wasn't a grand wish for fame or fortune. It was a simple, primal plea. "I just wish I wasn't alone," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "I wish someone would show up. Someone handsome. Someone magical." She sighed, opening her eyes and offering a sad smile to her own reflection in the darkened window. It was a silly, childish wish, born of holiday wine and heartache. She had no idea that her words, carried on the electrically charged air of New Year's Eve, had traveled far beyond the confines of her lonely living room. They had found a listener, and it was not a kind one. Miles away, in a forgotten antique shop, cluttered with the ghosts of 1,000 pasts, a small, ornate brass lamp sat gathering dust on a high shelf. It was unassuming, tarnished with age, yet within its metallic confines writhed a consciousness as old as the desert sands. This was no benevolent genie of fairy tale lore. This was a djinn, a creature of smokeless fire and pure malice, imprisoned centuries ago and burning with an eternal, seething hatred for the world of mortals. Clara's wish, imbued with the raw, potent energy of her loneliness, pierced the veil of its prison like a shard of glass. The djinn felt the pull, the desperate summons from a human heart. It was a loophole, an invitation it could not refuse. The lamp trembled, a faint, dark light pulsing from within. It had found its host. Not far from Clara's home, a young man named Leo was making his way home from a disastrous holiday party. He was, by all accounts, devastatingly handsome. His jaw was sharp, his eyes a startling shade of green, and his dark hair was dusted with snowflakes. He was the kind of man who turned heads without trying, the very picture of the someone handsome from Clara's wish. But Leo's heart was heavy. He felt disconnected, adrift in the sea of forced merriment. As he walked down a deserted street, a sudden, blinding headache struck him. He staggered, clutching his temples as a wave of nausea and disorientation washed over him. He leaned against a frost-covered lamppost, his breath misting in the frigid air. A strange, guttural whisper echoed in his mind, a language he didn't understand, but felt in his very bones. His vision blurred, and the world seemed to warp and twist around him. A dark, smoky tendril, invisible to any human eye, had slithered from the antique shop and found him. It coiled around him, seeping into his pores, invading his mind. Leo's green eyes flickered, and for a moment they glowed with an ancient, fiery light. The pain subsided as quickly as it had come, but the man who straightened up was no longer just Leo. His movements were different, more fluid, more predatory. A cruel, knowing smile played on his lips, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The djinn was now wearing Leo's face, a perfect vessel for its dark purpose. It looked around, its new senses adjusting. It could feel Clara's wish, a beacon of warmth and longing in the cold night. It knew where it had to go. The possessed Leo noticed a discarded Santa Claus suit, cheap and garish, spilling from a donation bin on the corner. A wicked idea, a perversion of the festive spirit, formed in the djinn's mind. Dressing as a symbol of joy and giving, a figure of childhood innocence, was the perfect disguise for the horror it intended to unleash. It pulled on the red suit, the flimsy white beard barely concealing the cruel smirk on its handsome face. The costume was a mockery, a profane joke that only it understood. Dressed as Santa Claus, this harbinger of doom began to walk, each step purposeful and silent on the freshly fallen snow, heading directly for Clara's bungalow. Back in her house, Clara was startled by a firm, confident knock on her door. Her heart leaped into her throat. Who could possibly be calling at this hour on New Year's Eve? Peeking through the peephole, her breath caught. Standing on her porch, bathed in the soft yellow light, was a man in a Santa Claus suit. But this was no portly, jolly old man. Through the cheap beard she could see a chiseled jawline and the most piercing green eyes she had ever seen. He was impossibly handsome, a storybook prince in a ridiculous costume. He smiled, a slow, magnetic smile that made her insides flutter. He looked exactly like the man from her dreams, the man from her wish. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said, his voice a low, melodic baritone that sent a shiver down her spine. "I was just in the neighborhood and saw your light on. It's a cold night to be alone." Against all her better judgment, mesmerized by his charm and the sheer absurdity of the situation, Clara opened the door. "Santa?" she asked, a nervous laugh escaping her. He stepped inside, bringing a gust of cold air and an electrifying presence that filled the silent room. He took off the hat and beard, revealing a face so perfect it seemed unreal. "Something like that," he replied, his gaze intense, pinning her in place. All thoughts of caution evaporated from Clara's mind. This was it, her wish come to life. The loneliness that had plagued her for years began to melt away under his heated stare. They talked for what felt like minutes, but was nearly an hour. He was charming, witty, and seemed to understand her in a way no one ever had. He was, in a word, perfect, too perfect. As the final seconds of the year ticked away on the television, the noise from the distant celebrations grew louder. 10, 9, 8. The countdown began. He turned to her, his green eyes seeming to glow in the dim light. "Happy New Year, Clara," he whispered, his voice laced with an ancient, hypnotic power. He leaned in, his face drawing closer to hers. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs, a wild drumbeat of anticipation and excitement. This was the moment she had been wishing for. This was a New Year's kiss that would change everything. As their lips met at the exact stroke of midnight, a jolt like electricity shot through her. It wasn't the pleasant spark of romance she had imagined. It was something else, something cold, something draining. His kiss was not one of passion, but of consumption. It was a siphon. With every second, their lips remained locked. She could feel her warmth, her energy, her very life force being drawn out of her. Her skin, once flushed with wine and excitement, grew pale and clammy. The vibrant light in her eyes began to dim, replaced by a growing fog of confusion and terror. She tried to pull away, but his grip was like iron. He was not kissing her. He was feeding on her. Her body grew heavy, her limbs refusing to obey her frantic thoughts. A creeping cold spread from her core, an unnatural chill that had nothing to do with the winter night. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, each pulse a faint, struggling flutter. Looking into his eyes, she no longer saw the handsome stranger, the answer to her wish. She saw an endless, burning desert, a vortex of ancient hunger. The handsome face twisted into a grotesque mask of triumph, a predator enjoying its meal. Clara's final, silent scream was trapped in her throat, stolen by the very kiss she had so desperately craved. She was dying, slowly, intimately, in the arms of her perfect wish. The djinn held her, savoring the last vestiges of her life, the sweet energy of her extinguished loneliness. As her body went limp in his arms, he gently lowered her to the floor, her vacant eyes staring up at the festive decorations. He had fulfilled the letter of her wish. She was not alone when she died. The entity looked at the handsome face in the reflection of the dark television screen, the face of Leo, now a hollow shell. It smiled its cruel, cold smile. One wish granted, one soul consumed. And the night was still young. Outside, the world cheered for a new year, oblivious to the ancient horror that now walked among them, wearing a handsome face and searching for its next lonely, wishing victim.